Hello, my name is Karina, and I will be providing an overview of my book recommendation system. The whole idea of my project was to try to create a system that recommended books based on your previous book. Now, currently there are many recommendation systems out there that are used by various companies such as Google, Amazon, but those are more tailored towards trying to create more sales and profits. Now, there are other platforms such as Goodreads that try to tailor it towards the person's interests so that they can understand what to read. Now, my goal for my system was to input the last book the user read and trying to search through a data set pulled off Goodreads and compare the information such as genre, author, years published, and the rating, trying to use the KNN algorithm. With this information that was given, it would then provide the top 5 or the best prediction recommendation that the reader should read next. Now, the implementation of this system was that you would enter a title of a book with the author, and it would pull up Goodreads browser, and it would pull the information from the web page and put it into an Excel document to be later used to be compared with the data set that I had already developed, and comparing that with the two of them. However, my data set was very small, only about 1,200 items, which we'll get to that later. But basically, it would look at the book ID, title, author, publisher, rating, and genre. And then it will filter out through the pre-processing. It would filter out if you wanted the same genre or if you wanted a different genre. It would filter out whether you want the same author but different genre, or filter if you want the same author with the same genre. It all depended on your preference. And then eventually, after it filtered out that information, it would then look at ratings, the average ratings that Goodreads had, as well as the publication year. Now, the goal was again to get the most recent item published with the highest rating. It ended up being an issue that most books that were recently published don't really have a high rating or do not have many users that rated it. So that was one issue that came up. Not only that, but most books have multiple genres attached to them, so that became another issue where I only decided to pick the first genre that Goodreads labeled. So if one book, let's say, had 5 different genres, I would only pick the first one that was labeled, which kind of hindered the process of recommending books. Now, like I said before, the results for my system were not great. And that was mostly because of my data set. My data set was one I created, and it had a very narrow view. It only had about 1,200 items, and most of the items were rated between 3 and 4.5, which were pretty average. Not only that, but most of them were published within a certain time frame. Not many were published recently, which kind of hindered that process as well. So once it filtered out the genre and author, it didn't have much to go on, so majority of the time it picked the same items. Going forward, I would probably get a bigger data set and one that involved a bigger user ratings. And what I mean by that, you wouldn't have to enter just one item. It would be a whole history of items so that it can be compared to a new data set. Basically, 2 data sets that would be really, really big. Unfortunately, I've learned my lesson, and I would work on making larger data sets. Thank you and have a nice day.